Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Please let me know, Rakhi ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible. You can start, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the organizing committee, I, Dr. Satinderjeet Kaur, welcome you all to the third day of this FTP on effective teaching, art and science of effective teaching, strategies and methods. As we all know that there is a difference between our expectations and the realities. Expectations are those that we consider as possible to occur. On the other hand, reality is the state of things as they are. The topic for today's session is expectations and realities of higher education, gap analysis. And the speaker for today's session is Dr. Jagwant Singh, who has retired from GGSD College as head of the Department of Commerce after 32 years of praiseworthy teaching experience. Sir has been a member syndicate of Punjab University as well as Board of Finance. He has also been Secretary of Faculty of Business Management and Commerce, Punjab University, Chandigarh. He is General Secretary of Punjab Federation of University and College Teachers Organization. With his expert knowledge in the fields of banking, finance, and laws, Sir has written 6 books and has also supervised many MPhil and PhD theses. Sir has been an education activist during his entire teaching career and continues to be actively involved in matters related to education. So here we have Dr. Jagwant Singh, who will talk about expectations and realities of higher education, gap analysis. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Firstly, I thank the Smart College for Women for giving me this opportunity to interact with the teachers on a very relevant topic of expectation versus reality and or expectation reality gap analysis in higher education. This is something which is very close to my heart. I am very happy to speak on this topic. I understand that all the participants, being teachers, they have their own understanding of expectations, and all of them have also experienced the actual reality in their careers and their institutions. Those realities can differ from institution of the system. So if we look at the human history, with each generation, there has been improvement. The next to population. That's a that's the kind of importance the philosophers have been attaching to education. Now, if we look at that, we can say knowledge is like light, weightless, enlightening the lives of people every day. Yet, billions of people still live in the darkness unnecessarily. In part, at least, people live in poverty because they cannot reach the switch to turn on the light, and that switch is called education. Higher education has never been so of the developing world as it is now. depends upon higher education. It is understandable that higher education cannot guarantee rapid economic development. But definitely, a sustainable progress is impossible without higher education. I may bring to your notice that the quality has been one of the important focal area in many UNESCO conferences, where the findings were that the sustainable economic development cannot take place without quality higher education. And if we look at the as it is today, then we realize that the global wealth today is not concentrated in land, factories, machinery, etc., which are tangible assets. It is more and more in human capital, the quality of which depends upon their education, particularly the higher education. The knowledge and skills of people are increasingly becoming critical to the world economy. If we look at the United States, the #1 state in the global economy, then we find that at least the human capital's value is 3 times more as compared to physical capital. And similar is the scenario in most of the developed countries, and even in developing countries, the human capital contribution or their share in the nation's wealth has been increasing. It's a different matter that some of the countries of the world have been left behind, especially sub-Saharan countries. They have not been able to make progress. And whatever news you get from there, you find that that's a problem for human beings living there. And that has to be a matter of concern for the entire world because we live on the same planet. We all are human beings. We need to have our concern for those people who have been left behind because of the skewed economic development in the world. Now, advanced skills, they command a premium in today's workplace. Most developed countries have a substantial segment of population higher education. That also is a reality. When we look at gross enrollment ratio in higher education in developed in, I would say, even in the teaching profession, those who have advanced skills, their services, they are valued at much more premium as compared to others. This all is because of the contribution of higher education. Now, we have to pay a little attention to the developing countries, especially like India. Now, the question here is, will we be able to compete in the knowledge economy? Or we will face a future where we are experiencing exclusion, unable to develop the requisite skills. Fortunately, at least in the area of information technology and communication technology, we are not behind. We are almost at par with the developed world. Now, what is the role of higher education in supporting and enhancing the process? It is associated with better skills, higher productivity, and enhanced human capacity to improve the quality of life. Education at all levels is needed if economies are to climb from sustaining subsistence level farming through an economy based on manufacturing to participation in the global economy. Now on this, let me give you an example of state of Punjab, which is my native place. And it stands out in a number of ways from other states of our country. And it is going through a very extremely disturbing phase for a long time. Punjab was ahead of other states because all the economies, including India, even after independence, we were more dependent on agriculture. We were venturing into manufacturing. are not good even in agriculture, and we face famines, we face starvation, and we have to depend on aid from other countries. Those who are senior, they will remember PL 480 assistance, where wheat was given for starving people in India. As now India is giving wheat to Afghanistan presently. At that time, we were on the receiving end. At that time, the initiative taken by the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, we had Green Revolution. And in Green Revolution, Punjab was ahead of other states. And as a result, what happened that Punjab was much higher in per capita income also. It was considered to be a land of prosperity. That was true. But then agriculture land being fertile, it was difficult for this state to move to manufacturing sector in a big way. The other disadvantage being that this is a border state. And therefore big factories will not come because in case of war, they could be easy target. So with those disadvantages, this state has the opportunity of taking a greater share in the knowledge economy, for which it was required that they invest in the higher education and in education totality. Punjab lacked in that. As a result, post 92 period, its ranking started going down because it has not been able to take advantage of new developments, new technology, because it didn't invest in education. As a result, it has been left behind in number of areas. And people's understanding that the agriculture will take care has proved to be wrong, especially in the farmers' education. Number of data pictures were came out that the most of the farmers are marginal, and it is a issue which needs to be addressed. Now coming to this, since they could not take advantage of IT revolution, they have been left behind. The cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Gurgaon, Mohali could have been an equally good hub because Chandigarh has the air connectivity, the weather is good, it should not have been a problem. But state failed to take advantage of that. Maybe that was a visionless action. And as a result, today Punjab still depends on agriculture. And as a result, their economy is going down. They are not able to take their share in the services sector. They are not able to take their share in the services sector, and as a result, the problems are happening. Now, if we look at higher education, so it is for a national effort, we need to raise standards of living and alleviate poverty. There was a belief that higher education could help make societies more democratic while strengthening human rights. This is immediately after independence that the leadership of that time, it was of the opinion that we need education to elevate our from poverty, and we also need to make our society pluralist, democratic, and valuing more human rights. So with that, the things were started. What we have achieved, each body will have one's own perception and understanding of that. I'm not dwelling into that part. Subsequently, in higher education, we find that all over the world, there is a knowledge revolution. So as knowledge becomes more important, so does higher education. Country needs to educate more of their young people to a higher standard. And degree is now almost essential qualification for each and every job. For example, after independence, the eligibility for a position of clerk was matriculation. Today, all over the country, it is graduation. So that is a change which has happened over a period of time. So even for a job of a clerk, a person has to go to the institution. It has become an absolutely essential norm. Now, the quality of knowledge generated within higher education institutions and its availability to wider economy is becoming increasingly critical and competitive. If we look at that, we will find that the major changes over a period of time, and the economies have taken advantage of that by adopting those technologies. While the benefits of higher education continue to rise, the cost of being left behind are also growing. Higher education is no longer a luxury. It is essential for national, social, and economic development. We live in a major, this needs a, I would say, structural change. And if we look back, what has happened, we'll find that the 18th century, late 18th century industrial revolution, slowly and slowly, starting from UK, it moved to the other part of the world. It took time. And it is basically a process of catching up, which does take a little time. Most of the economies did that. The East Asian economies, they have almost caught up with the UK and rest of the developed countries. I'm referring to countries like South Korea, Japan, China, Taiwan. They have all close to that as far as the manufacturing industry revolution impact is concerned. Some economies like India, they are still to do the complete exercise. We are still in the catching up exercise in number of areas. In number of areas, we are good. In number of areas, we are behind. And that leads to imports of many things from other countries. That also is a factor which we need to keep in mind. Now, in a predominant industrial economy, the economic process of catch-up has always been very slow, as I stated earlier. Now, in the second half of 20th century, we see a different growth. That is of knowledge-centered as opposed to manufacturing-centered growth. The knowledge revolution has been exponential, and continuing increase in knowledge in advanced countries these have been affected from fields from biotechnology to financial services. We now see this happening in our own country also. There have been tremendous advantages in technology. The world's Silicon Valleys, they have pushed the technological envelope further. It's no longer Silicon Valley of USA. They are similar tech parks, tech cities, which are pushing the technology to new frontiers. That's happening very clearly. Now, in this part, if we look, the developing countries have been in number of ways. For example, the internet in India, it entered somewhere in 94. I can share with you, in 1993, I happened to be in Canada with my sister, and they had started using email. And somebody told me that the postal mail will become snail's mail. I could not understand at that time. Once we move, now we find that the postal mail is almost gone. And all of us are using internet and the other communication technologies, which are much faster, much cheaper. And at the click of mouse, we can pass on the information to anywhere in the world. Now, with the new achievements in the technology, we can have video conference anywhere in the world, which even a few years was seemed to be a distant dream, but that has happened. So information technology has made ever increasing volume of knowledge more accessible, and all of us are experiencing it. Communication technologies has spread the information and knowledge with dazzling speed. Internet has made more knowledge available to all the people. And today, especially after the COVID, all the teachers learned that we are moving to online mode. Every teacher learned through experience. Students learn through experience. It's a different matter that a part of population has been left behind because they cannot have access to the data, they cannot have access to the network, they are living in far off places. That exclusion part of the total story is also painful, but this is clear that we have made rapid advancements, and in the days to come, as per the new education policy, we will have more digital education. The continuing education will be more in the digital education mode. So those sort of things are also clear. So participation in the knowledge economy requires a new set of human skills. People need to have higher qualifications and to be capable of greater intellectual independence. They must be flexible and be able to continue learning well beyond the traditional school. Developing countries are pursuing a moving target, as developed countries are constantly pursuing the knowledge frontier. What the point which I'm raising here is that in developed economies, the technology is developing so fast that it is the other countries have to catch up with them. The developments are extremely fast. And what is happening is that winner takes all situation has emerged a number of times. What I mean to say by that those who have developed a new technology, they are able to take benefit quickly. And the technologically advanced company will be able to do business, others will be left out. Of a different company. So that has been happening in the IT revolution, and all of us has experienced that. Now, what are the implications for knowledge revolution for higher education? Knowledge has become a springboard for economic growth and development, making promotion of a culture that supports it, creating as well as disseminating a vital task. What our expectations are from higher education, students must learn not only what is known now, but also to keep their knowledge up to date. New technology-based tools for gathering knowledge must become central elements of their education. Curricula shall be designed to achieve the purpose. This is expected. Similarly, specialization is increasingly important. Need to provide opportunity for in-depth studies, offering programs of general education that can serve a solid foundation for lifelong learning. Specialization is taking place now in a very big way. For example, if we look at the field of medicine, you have now super specializations. 30, 40 years back, there was a general physician who was attending to everything. So now within the field of cardiology, you will have a different specializations. So this specialties is the contribution of higher education, and for each and every aspect, there is a specialist who is addressing the need. Now, institutional differentiation is a logical response to the increased specialization and importance of knowledge. What I mean that higher education, there may be polytechnics, there may be degree colleges, there may be multidisciplinary college, there may be institutions which are based on science and technology. We have seen technical universities coming up. We have seen science and technology institutions which have been established. And all that happens quite quickly. And that is this differentiation is essential, and partly it is now becoming true because we are moving towards privatization of higher education. We have moved in a big way, rightly or wrongly. I will consider it to be that to a greater extent it is wrongly, but private universities have become a dominant player in certain areas. Of course, those areas are the one where there is money for them, but that differentiation is taking place. And it is impacting other public funded institutions in certain way, whether it is a public funded university or it is a public funded college. Now, knowledge is being produced throughout the world, and active engagement with scholars in other countries is crucial for developing and maintaining a lively intellectual community. much new knowledge in international arena is now public. By public, what I mean is that it is no longer, it is available to the public. And fortunately, because of the ICT revolution, the sharing of the knowledge is becoming quite fast. During COVID, also, you would find that when it occurred in China, every country wanted to know what the genome sequencing. Within a few days, they shared genome sequencing with the Western world, and that was so essential for developing vaccine. And we saw the period where vaccination, you can say developing a vaccination become much more faster. And the normal time period was reduced by number of times. Otherwise, normally a vaccine is tested over a long period, only then it is administered to the human being. But because of the crisis, within a short period, everything was fast-tracked. Things were shared from, you can say, what is the new variant coming. That is possible because of the knowledge economy and the sharing of the knowledge happening all over the world. This is a tremendous advantage in today's world. What is expected from the higher education is that it will unlock potential at all levels of society, helping talented people to gain advanced training, whatever be the background. Create a pool of highly trained individuals that attains a critical size and becomes a national resource. Address topics whose long-term value to society is thought to exceed their current value to students and employers. What I'm trying to make a point here is that there are areas where the education brings immediate benefits. For example, if a technocrat is doing a degree in a technology field, he will get employment. Similarly, a person in the field of medicine, if he acquires new knowledge, he will benefit his earnings. But these are not the only skills which we need. Long term, it is the humanities or social sciences that play an important role, because what will be the shape of society? What will be the values? How they're going to move? How they're going to address their problems? Be it political, be it economic. There, the humanities have an important role to play. And in that case, the time frame over which the higher education is supposed to contribute may be much more longer. And in fact, the gestation period in higher education is always longer. But these are the areas which cannot be ignored in higher education. And it also needs to provide a space for free and open discussion of ideas and values. It must be remembered that it's the educated people of a nation, even of a poor nation, who will assert their nation's interest in the increasingly complex web of global economic, cultural, and political interactions. Without education, it is hard to imagine how many poor countries will cope or could have coped. Let me give an example here of our India's own freedom struggle. You look at the academic qualification of those leading lights of the freedom struggle, be it Jawaharlal Nehru, be it Mahatma Gandhi, be it Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, be it Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, or Lala Lajpat Rai, you will find all of them, B.R. Ambedkar. They were highly educated people, educated abroad. Most of them acquired Bart Law from UK. And they were in a position to have a very comfortable life there, having acquired those qualifications. But it is those people who, after experiencing what they experienced in education, they came back to India, they wanted to bring change, and they were the one who had the ideas to change. Otherwise, maybe the freedom struggle would not have started at all. If you look at South Africa, it is the contribution of Mandela. He was an educated man. Even in jail, he was learning through distance education. And incidentally, South Africa has one of the oldest institutional distance education. They are the one who make a difference to the society in the long term. and they are the one who change the future of any country. And that happens primarily from humanities and social sciences. It is expected to reflect, promote an open and meritocratic civil society. The best higher education is expected to be a model, and it is supposed to create a modern civil society. It should promote enlightened citizens. Its primary responsibility that is a primary responsibility of social science. Let me hear the world, what they have grown, what are their values, what is their stage, what is their previous culture in that. That all will be an important factor in deciding whether this goal is achieved or not. Maybe when later when I discuss with you some real life experiences as an activist, my perception and how our system is working, where we need to improve, you will have also maybe the sufficient inputs with yourself to contribute. That segment I expect to be much more interactive. It is expected that higher education system will have a stratified structure, which will be able to address the different needs of different groups. For example, the disadvantaged groups, their needs will be different. So it is good that in our society we are becoming more inclusive, whether it is transgender or the groups which have been left behind, they are catching up. And in women education, especially the northern part of the country has made tremendous advances. And so there could be a stratified structure which may be required to address the needs of different segments of society. Flexibility is also important to respond to full strength and the market demands. This is market demands can undergo change. What I'm pointing out is we need to use our full potential to address the market demands, and that requires flexibility. Now, in number of areas, the flexibility is essential because maybe the demand for that course goes down, and some institution is having faculty for that, lab for that, is not able to pay them salary, and then thinks of closure, impacting human lives. I see that happening in a number of areas where this has happened, especially in college education, like bioinformatics. It started with a bang, but later on, the demand for that course has gone down. There may be similarly the computer education in degree colleges. Similar experiences is there for all the institutions, and that is leading to trouble. So we need to have a system where sufficient flexibility, which can respond to such situations or tackle the situation. Now, well-defined standards for themselves, challenging goals, which are consistent with the need of the society. For example, we need to challenge ourselves by laying certain norms, standards. For example, the educational qualification in higher education. I will refer to the changes over a period of time. If you look at the university or college teachers qualification, essential qualification, 50s, 60s, you will find that a 50% master degree was considered to be good enough. Later on in university, post 1973, the requirement of PhD came. And then there were conditions that MPhil and PhD could be made a compulsory qualification, and every teacher was supposed to acquire that. It is in 1991 that the net eligibility test was introduced. I can share with you, this was outcome of teachers' movement. In 1987, most of the people you may not be knowing, there was 32-day indefinite strike throughout the country in university and colleges. It was on the issue of pay scales. I will not go into the major achievement which changed the scenario for the teaching community in higher education. There was tremendous change in that. big achievement of that. At that time, as teachers, we were equally concerned what is happening in certain parts of the country. At that time, we had one example before us that was from Madhya Pradesh, where a very low-level MPhil degree was being acquired, and number of institutions, they were adding certain classes to expand the higher education, and the teachers who were being recruited, those were being recruited on the basis of caste, with very poor qualification. Merit was getting ignored. Then we realized that similar is the position in some other areas also. So as teachers, we felt this is not the right thing to happen. We need to apply filters at national level so that the states which are trying to make this sort of adjustment, they are not able to play foul with the quality of our education. Out of that, the idea of national eligibility test was mooted, that there are universities where students have a very good score, not only 55%, much higher. There were universities which were very miser in giving marks. So as a result, lot of difference in institution to institution. So there was a need for a national filter. So that is how the national eligibility test got introduced on 19 September 91. We may have a mixed experience of that, but that was essential at that time. That was required because we need to have the certain standards for higher education, and it was required that we need to do it. Subsequently, faculty qualification, their training, their in-service training, all these questions came because we were. To what extent this has been achieved, we can discuss it later. And we also expected culture of accountability in this system. This also is absolutely essential. I personally feel that on the issue of accountability of our various systems, be it health, be it education, be it civil administration, we have been lagging behind. And I would say now, even in the case of judiciary, we are lagging behind as a society. You must have read a number of news on that. I'm not going into details of that. We also expect that the system will be immune from political manipulations. The facts and the reality is before you. Well-developed links to other sectors. We expect that the higher education system will pay attention to other sectors also, particularly the secondary education. If the school education, senior secondary education is in shambles, we cannot expect that people will enter higher education with the right kind of base and qualification, and then they will be able to contribute. This is something which needs to be a very clear idea that we need to pay attention to school education. Frankly speaking, in recent times, post-COVID period, I think the senior secondary examination part has been handled much better by CBSE, ICSE, and state boards as compared to higher education, where a number of universities, they have gone for online examination without any proctor. So credibility at this point of time, I find that in higher education, the credibility of examination, number of institutions is poor, and that is impacting the employability of these batches. You must have read that Infosys said that the batch of 2021 is not eligible. So after hue and cry, they removed that condition. But it will be too much to believe that the corporate sector is actually not taking note what is happening right now in some of the universities because of online examination. Then higher education flourishes in a legal and regulatory framework that encourages innovation and achievement. Higher education is focused on people. Regulation needs to foster, not hamper, human potential. And this, all of you must have your own experience dealing with your universities, AICT, UGC. You have your own experience. I will discuss as part of that, and when we discuss to what are the realities of our situation. And higher education is expected to contribute to income growth. It really, in fact, does. There have been studies in the Africa, especially Ghana and Congo, which were initiated by UNESCO and World Bank, where they found that the person who is school pass out, he earns almost 10 times a person who has not gone to school. And higher education people are getting more income as compared to. This may be the life story of many of you. If we compare your parents' qualification and education, the kind of job they picked up, the kind of you have picked up, or your now children are picking up, you must have noticed that it contributes to income growth. This also is expected expanding choices. Expanding choices is now a push for private universities. I am not a fan of private universities, but I can say that some of the private universities in recent past, they have come up very well. They have their constraints. I really appreciate and admire Ashoka University, the kind of contribution their faculty is making. But if you look at their fee, you realize that very rich people can go to Ashoka University. It is more like Doon School, where only rich people studied. So those sort of institutions will also be important for national polity, civil society. But to think that they will be contributing much differently, it's difficult to say. Other private universities, there are a number of experiences. I will come to that later. And increasing relevant skills is also basically still coming from the institutions which were established by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, IIT, Indian Science and Research Institute, later on the new IITs which were set up, and also the Science Education Research Institute which made the contribution. It is they who are making more contribution as compared to any private university. That also is a fact that despite that the government has been decreasing the public funding, there is a contribution coming from those very institutions. Further, it is expected that the access to higher education, the quality higher education, is also a responsibility, equity, and inclusive approach. These are the factors: equity, access, inclusiveness. This you come across throughout each policy document, including new education policy, on which I'm not focused at this part. Now, to ensure quality, there has been a problem. Country has been experiencing that the quality has gone down. All over the world, this has been a push. Particularly when the expansion takes place, the quality does get affected. Be it a developed country, be it a developing country, or an underdeveloped country. So there has been an international concern for the last 30 years, how to ensure quality. That led to the idea of assessment and accreditation. That is what came the idea that this should be done. And we had our own NAC established in 1994. What is happening there? What sort of accreditation is taking place? How many institutes? There are big gaps. I can share with you that in October 21, the institution which stands accredited, their number is less than 14,000. And there are only 12 or 14 universities which have gone into the 4th cycle and 64 colleges. So even after 30 years, we are struggling. But that doesn't mean that each country has that sort of experience. El Salvador did much better. They started after us in 95. But what they did, that after they had an assessment and accreditation council, external quality assurance examination was done. They were given 2 years to improve. And once they did improve, they closed number of institutions by 98. As a result, all the institutions became much more serious. Maybe India, we have not been able to give that sort of thrust. I have serious question about the working of NAC in a number of ways. I don't know whether I will have the time to discuss those things or not. Enhanced quality of expanded system, where this external quality assurance becomes essential. Now, with reference to NAC, the NAC expects from higher education that you will set up IQAC, and those IQAC will ensure that they will be in fact the basic institute which are to ensure the quality assurance. But the experience in that has been in number of ways very, very disappointing. UK quality assurance, they started much later than us. Their education system. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Now you are audible.
Yes, sir. Now you are audible.
Connectivity issue.
Yes, sir.
Of
There
winds
is
crossed
some.
last night. The broadband has a problem. It will take time to fix that. So I'm on data, and maybe the data problem is happening. You may be experiencing. I hope throughout I have been audible, or maybe there could have been a problem.
Yes, sir. You have been.
So I'm not.
Yes, sir. You have been audible through.
Now in India, to give push to this, the government of India in 2013, the RUSA grants were linked to your NAC accreditation. That did give a push that the institution should be doing it, but otherwise there is a problem. Another development has been of that most of the institutions, AQAR has not been proper. I have come across institutions which have not uploaded AQAR timely, and that has led to a number of problems. Now coming to the reality part, if we look at the last point which I've been discussing, let me firstly give a gap on that. Sometime back, I think 2018, a study was conducted in West Bengal. They sent Calcutta as the benchmark. They looked at the performance of 12 institutions, all A grade accredited, that how they performed. And they found that in first 2-3 years, set up IQAC. And in some other cases where IQAC is set up, they have not done their job. Recently, I was interacting in a university, I want to name it, a premier university. The IQAC has not performed. They have a time to upload their SSR. They are not ready with the data. They have not given their inputs that for a university, these kind of policy need to be in place. And the university is now battling with that their previous certificate is coming to an end. They have no policies. They need to develop policies, get budget approval, get government's approval, and they're going to have a gap of 1 year. So despite the good intention that IQAC should be the fulcrum from where the quality assurance will take place, the actuality is much different. Institution to institution, I have observed, the reports are uploaded without holding meetings. And most of the institutions continue to be centered around their head, be it principal, be it vice chancellor. And the importance which needs to be given to IQAC, the role which they are supposed to play, Maybe because they don't have a statutory role, that is why it is happening. But it is not serving purpose. We are lagging behind. And when we compare it with the accreditation councils or agencies in the rest of the world, we have been left behind. Our performance leaves much to be desired. That is the reality as far as NAC accreditation, which is supposed to ensure quality in higher education. It is failing miserably. And I won't hesitate to say that. NAC performer, the way they assess, it is questionable. I find it strange that even after 28 years in existence, although they have made a lot of effort in quantifying the assessment procedure, trying to minimize subjective role of the peer review committee, their entire assessment does not take note of some very important inputs which are essential for quality. About the qualification of the teachers, the standards and regulations are supposed to comply. I don't find anywhere they're saying whether your institution is UGC regulation compliant, A, B, C, D, mentioning to all those regulations which have been notified by UGC for maintenance of standards in higher education. Many of you must have dealt with the NAC Proforma, SSR, IQAC, AQAR. Do you find some questions on that? You'll find it missing. And that's a big reality, that we have regulations in place of UGC, NCT, AICT. I would say that MCI and DCI is doing much better. And those are not part of the assessment. At one point of time as an activist, I felt concerned that this is working out, ending up as a fake exercise, not contributing much, except that when the peer review committee is visiting the college, infrastructure is brushed up to give a good look. That is not what will ensure quality. It is the compliance of the minimum standards which is essential. But NAC doesn't do it. So I sent a RTA query. It was declined. So we are to provide you information. You're not seeking information. I filed an appeal with the NAC chairman that my question is relevant. I'm seeking information. Do you have any process questionnaire to see that the UGC regulations are being complied with? Then they gave me a reply, our peer review committee looks into that. And I have not seen that happen. Each SSR is questionable. I've seen very, very bad reports, still institution getting A grade. 10 years ago, in one of the college, somebody gave me a hint that look at our SSR. Normally, I don't do that. So I went through their entire SSR. I was surprised to see there were paragraphs where the principal's contribution was being appreciated, that she has done this, she has done this, she did this qualification, this is her background. So principal's contribution was highlighted in 2-3 pages as she. But that college never had a woman principal. Then I later on probed that how it happened. Then I come to know that the college principal has outsourced it to some other agency. I was wondering if an institution, it's a big name, if it cannot prepare a self-study report for NAC, how the system will function. That's those sort of glaring problems we experience. And I would say that this is not happening only at college and university. It is happening at the UGC level also. You must have learned a lot about choice-based credit system. There have been a big push during last decade or so. You cannot reject this idea at all. Votary of choice-based credit system for the students. And in fact, in Punjab University, in BCom, I introduced to partially for honor school students that they should be allowed to take some course of their own for to ensure flexibility and giving them choice. I tried that, and it was in place for 15 years. Later on, that got changed. But what I'm saying, that even UGC's choice-based credit system, it was extremely faulty. I was member of the committee of Punjab University, which was to implement choice-based credit system. In first meeting where the concept was being discussed, I wholeheartedly supported it. Next meeting, I opposed it. And I was questioned why you're opposing it. I said, I've done the exercise and I have not depended on my wisdom. I have asked other 3 teachers who are knowledgeable to do the exercise. And we reached the same conclusion. This choice-based credit system will not be able to function properly. It is compromising the quality rather than enhancing it. The reason was people found it difficult to counter. They found it difficult to answer also. We have if you know that we have the UGC regulations on first degree and master degree, which are the minimum standard for imparting instruction, student strength. Now in that, for an undergraduate course, the contact hour teaching for student is 30 hours. I'm not referring to teachers working hours of 16 hours. I'm referring to that a student at undergraduate level, as per UGC regulations, for award of first degree, which is essential. And in fact, without complying with that, no degree should be awarded. I even at present, I find number of universities are not complying with that. So it was 30 contact hours. And the model choice-based credit system given in my subject commerce and also in arts, I find it falling short of it. Even with the exercising option of increasing the number of hours, it was not reaching the level. It was working out to it 18 to 20 contact hours. I raised that question that if we do it, if we implement it, now we are teaching 27 to 30 contact hours. You are reducing it. How it will improve the quality? Finally, the university decided to write to UGC. I drafted the letter was sent to UGC. Believe it, 4 reminders during 2 years, UGC did not answer to that question at all. That was a confirmation that they know that they have problem. But the university was giving push. And I'm now sharing with you how you have to tackle the issue if you are convinced that this is wrong. If you will go through the NEP 2020, in reference to CBCS, it is written revised CBCS. Now the term revised is used. I request that the questions may come later. We will take up those together. Let me complete the part which I want to share with you. Then I felt very bad. The university was pushing for it. Teacher was upset. There were people who are going to lose jobs. I wrote to MHRD, giving a detailed account how this is wrong. Then that was referred to UGC. A Central University Vice Chancellor given the task of going through it and suggesting. I mailed to that, and his mail was sent to me. I gave them more details. And then as a result of that, it was put on hold. The UGC stopped pushing for it. It is very difficult to admit a mistake. And in new education policy, it is referred as revised CBCS. Whether that will take place correctly or not, I don't know. NCT, which is for teacher training schools, from where we get our students. It is teacher training program. You look at the teacher training program, especially with the new private institutions, what you find is there is a serious deterioration of quality. You will come across non-attending B.Ed colleges. These institutions, they simply charge a premium for a student not to attend the classes. This is sale of degree, but it is happening. And nobody is able to check it. In fact, nobody probably is making efforts to check it. And in these institutions, they have ghost teachers also who are not working there, ghost principals. I have pointed out to many universities that this is happening. Now, just imagine that a person who is to be a trained teacher for school has actually no training. He acquires a degree, competes, bribes, or uses his links to get into the job, messing up the whole thing. This is happening all over the country. Then we have this affiliation process. I find number of universities are not following the conditions, regulation which define the conditions of affiliation 2009 by UGC, without which an institution should not be affiliated. But most of the universities have adopted it and they're not paying any attention to it, including the states. I will point out that the regulation 3.4.5 of these conditions, it lays down that a teacher should be paid UGC grades and allowances and a non-teaching staff as per the state or center as the case may be. But it is not happening. At most of the places, private institutions, they are not paying the salary. And universities which are supposed to play the regulatory role are completely failing in it. They are a complete failure as far as the regulatory mechanism carrying out responsibility is concerned. I will share with you that it is the number of affiliated colleges is also a big problem, and then the quality is also a big problem. I can say that the campuses have been home to, on the one side, moral courage, and on the other, moral cowardice. We have the examples of both. Firstly, let me give you a good example. In 1987 teachers strike, one vice chancellor from South Gujarat University, I think is Professor Shastri, he came out very strongly in a press statement that what teachers are asking for, I fully support it. They need career advancement. They cannot stagnate in one scale. And unless you improve the quality of teacher intake in the institutions, the quality in higher education will not improve. He came out very openly. He was sitting vice chancellor at that time. That is moral courage, which we see very rarely. Then I had experience of Professor D.N. George. He was vice chancellor of B.R. Ambedkar University, Agra. How I came to know that he has been a teacher in Punjab University, so I knew him. He knew about me. He appointed me as a subject expert in affiliation of a college near Hapur in UP. I was surprised that how come Agra University is. I was not aware that maybe I had gone abroad for a month or two at that time. I was not aware that who is the vice chancellor of Agra University. I was appointed as subject expert, and I declined that maybe this is a mistake. But then I get the party, they contacted me again that it is your name which has. I declined that I'm too busy. It's not possible for me to travel that distance. I don't know the area, so you have some other as subject expert. Then I get a reply that vice chancellor says only he will do it. Then I asked him, who is the vice chancellor? He said, Professor D.N. George. Then I sensed it that there is some problem in that. And he's trusting me that I will do an honest job. So I went there, cutting it short. There was hardly any building. Books which were shown in the library were second hand, no accession number. And the computer were still in the bag, very less furniture. Finding the whole condition, I said, I cannot okay this report. Believe it. The college authorities were after me that see in front of the market, there is a college on first floor. They have been given, they don't have even they have our own land. If they can get it, why can't we get it? I said, no, I won't do it. I give you 3 months to do it. Maybe I will visit again. I sent my negative report to the university. Later on, Professor D.N. George read resigned from the position. He came back to Chandigarh. He met me in market and asked him, sir, why you resigned? He told me that in Agra University, exams are taking place with a lag of 1 to 2 years. There was some institution which started working of its own.
Voice gone, sir.
I think there is some net problem. Kindly bear with us. Sir has already said that there's some net problem at his place.
And they conducted examination.
In progress. कोई बात ये मेरा कहाँ से आ रहा है?
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now you are.
Okay. There was a disconnection.
Yes, sir. Now you are audible. You can start, sir.
He told me that transfer asked me to what he did, he packed his bag. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are, but the connection breaks in between. Now you are audible, sir. Please start.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is a moral courage. But the rest of the stories we will find moral cowardice. People not doing what they are supposed to do. This is, I think, all I should say at this point of time. And I can share a few more things about the actual reality which is happening. I see that number of institutions, they have these students are admitted to the class A, which is far more than their capacity, especially when they move to online teaching. Some big institutions really created a mess. If they have to conduct physical classes, I find they won't be able to do it. The teacher-student ratio is going on the wrong side. And then the private university as a player, they are by and large playing havoc with the system. They are not following any UGC regulations. And nobody is asking them, except in some states where they have a regulatory authority. Nobody is asking them what they are doing. The staff is underpaid, overworked, performance is expected. Once I happened to come across a candidate when I was part of the selection committee for a college assistant professor post. He was coming from one big private university. So I thought that he is already well settled and he is coming to a new place. It doesn't suit him to be here. I asked him a question: why you want to leave that position and come back and come to this college? He says, frankly speaking, sir, I don't feel like being a teacher there. I'm not a teacher. I don't have a feeling that I'm a teacher. It is giving me stress. I want to leave. I said, what are the factors? He told me that students are being admitted in the university a day before the commencement of examination. And after that, whatever is attempted, teachers are asked to clear that student in the paper with certain kind of score. And the teacher says that this will be wrong. Students have not attempted anything. Teachers told, you want your next semester salary or not? We need revenue. We need to accommodate them. This is happening. Himachal has a regulatory authority. I've read in the newspaper. They did a good exercise. Out of the number of private universities which are there in Madhya Pradesh, they found at least 8 vice chancellors not eligible to be vice chancellor. And they were vice chancellor for a pretty long time. So they asked them to remove and appoint a vice chancellor who is duly qualified. CAG conducted an audit of private university in Punjab 7-8 years ago. And their finding was that on the college faculty, there were 200 teachers who were themselves graduates, not postgraduate. There's 55% on that. This became part of the CAG report that this is what is happening. But if you look at the political authorities, they are a hand in glove with these private institutions. They entertain them. I can name one vice chancellor, Professor Ram Grover, who retired from Punjab University. He was supposed to attend a vice chancellor conference with the minister. Now in that, he refused to go. I asked him, sir, why you are not going? He said, they always attend to the vice chancellor of private university for 2 hours, and public from university vice chancellor, they hardly get 10 minutes. So it's a humiliation for me. I don't want to go there. He declined. This is the actual of our institutions, how it is happening. And the last thing which I would like to point out, the overall system is not responsive. Some of you might have experienced something which I'm going to talk to you now about PhD regulations. 11th July 2009. Copy of norms. There are other universities.
I think again, there's some problem in the connection.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
That is a lot of problem.
It's okay,
Maybe
sir.
I will from another mobile. Give me a little time. No, okay. I think I can finish this part and maybe then I will shift to other one.
Yes. Yes.
I was talking about the PhD. If you go through what happened after that, the new norms were adopted, and UGC comes out with a norm that only those who have qualified as per 11 July 2009 regulations, they will be exempted from it. Sudden notification. Earlier PhD, they were eligible, no problem in that. They had not gone for NET because they were eligible. Suddenly the change is made, putting thousands of people in difficulty. What happened in that, West Bengal government was making recruitment for government colleges. People who were waiting for 6-7 years, they were in pain, they challenged in the High Court. In number of high courts, there were petitions. Some decided in favor of the petitioners, some against them. Finally, it ended up in the Supreme Court in P. Sushila's case. I tell you, in court, they defended their regulations. Thoroughly, they defended it. And the Supreme Court came out with a very clear ruling saying we are not going to interfere in the academic matters. It is for the UGC to decide whether give us an exemption. But what happened during the course of those debates in the court, the advocate, the that something is wrong. And they said, we need to make some corrections. Now, corrections comes in an indirect way. In 2018, they came out with a notification that if your degree satisfies the following thing, get a compliance certificate and you are eligible. Look, for 11 years, the candidates suffered because the system did not respond to the situation. It is only after that that the changes were made. How those changes were made? There were conferences held in different part of the country. The committee was headed by Professor Chauhan, former Vice Chancellor of Himachal Pradesh University. And we had one interaction in Chandigarh where 16 Vice Chancellors, number of principals, government nominee, they participated. And I was speaking on behalf of the teachers that why this is wrong. My arguments were very simple. That any regulation for award of degree cannot be made retrospective. And once a degree is awarded, you cannot raise question that why you didn't do this. You need to tell a student that you are to complete a 3-year degree course, you are to complete these many papers, fine. But it is just like telling student has graduated and you say, oh no, you want to clear more 4 credits and only then you will be awarded degree. This is absolutely senseless. Why we have done it? And then finally, I pointed out that those who did PhD after 11 July 2009, they have done it under a supervisor whose PhD was prior to 11 July 2009. What you are saying is it amounts to that the teacher supervisor had a poor degree and the student has a better degree. He is a better researcher. Because now you have placed the norms in position. And finally, I made a submission cutting it short. That if we go by that, then the Vice Chancellor who is sitting on the dais, including myself who is representing teachers, those who passed on before the introduction of 10+2 plus 3 system. So that was, our degree was 14 years, your degree was 14 years. You never had a 15-year degree. So you are not a graduate. Then how come you are a Vice Chancellor? Then they had a hearty laugh that we committed a blunder. They took my inputs and finally a correction did emerge. But how many years? 11 years. If the system is going to respond something in this much time, it is very, very, very sad. So those sort of experiences are the reality. Today also I say I have challenged authorities in the university and the government that I told his MH Mr. Javadekar that you pick up your 20 best institutional colleges and university, and I take the responsibility of establishing that at least 90% of them are not complying even with minimum regulation which is supposed to follow. The point which I'm making is, as a nation, as a country, we established the regulatory authority like UGC, which are supposed to maintain standards and coordinate the quality of higher education. Later on, we involve some other institutions. UGC does lay down regulations which is law of the land, but all the institutions are not following it. And there is no corrective step taking place. This is where sometimes I question. Is really higher education creating a better civil society? Are we really reaching a position where we can say that this has contributed? And your doubts get strengthened when you get NSE scam. And if you look at the board of directors of NSE, I hope you are aware of what happened there. I'm not going into details of that. It is virtually who is who. A retired judge of the High Court, former finance secretary, former revenue secretary, big names. They knew what is happening. They knew that CEO is in touch with some yogi in Himalaya, which I believe there's no yogi in Himalaya who was running NSE. It is somebody else. So that fraud was happening. People knew it, but they gave her an easy way out that you resign or leave. And compare that with what happened to Mr. Rajan Gupta, who happened to have 1 minute conversation on phone with somebody before the market was closing, he was sent to jail for 20 years. That you cannot do it. If we when we compare that sort of norms, I really have very serious questions, and I'm not able to make out why in our society we are not able to progress. Is it something inherently wrong with the civil society? Is it something because of the stage of economic development? Is it that we are religious but we are not ethical people, and our systems are completely unfair? Today I find the higher education system in most of the places is unfair to teachers, unfair to students. And it is not addressing the problem which the country is facing. Those issues get raised at national level, whether in the form of NEP or some other committees, because they interact with the rest of the world. Higher education is supposed to interact with the world. Once they interact with the experts in other countries, they pick up some point, they try to implement here without realizing that this is what is going to be the consequence. I can give you example of API. Yes, performance appraisal is required. Everybody who is performing a job, his performance must be appraised. That is fine. But does API realistic, feasible? Is that the way we wanted to evaluate? And what happened? All of you are aware the kind of journals came out, the kind of books were published, and how the papers were published. So that I found that somebody who is working in some IIT or Indian Science Education Research in science side, where the API is suited more, and they made it applicable to all the disciplines. For example, if somebody is studying Gujarati, is teaching Gujarati, how will have international publications? It's a regional language. Maybe Bangladesh people will have something common with West Bengal and this Punjab, with Pakistani Punjab. Some literature may be common. You can call it international publication. But most of the regional language will not be able to. Putting same condition on performing arts. A person who is in theater, who is a teacher of music, being called to come out with publications. Is their performance, is their students' performance is too important, or API is too important? And to make corrections in that, our system is highly irresponsible. It doesn't respond in time. And as a result, we later on start handling bigger mess. I think I will stop here, and then we can have the questions. I'm sure you must have some questions or points to contribute on this topic. I'm sorry because of the broadband problem at my end. There might be some interruptions beyond my control. Data connectivity is also not in my control. So I invite your questions and I will try to answer the best of my.
Thank you, sir. Besides having net issue, sir, it was really a very enriching experience. I request the participants, they can ask questions. Sir has a vast experience in the field of education, and you can ask questions related to your problems of the teachers, problems related to education. Sir is the right person to answer your queries. You can come up with your questions. Any questions? Somebody likes to share any experience with sir? Any experience related to your teaching career or your education, your college?
That means you have.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
You talked about the credit system, based credit system. So what's the future like? In future, will it be implemented? Is it likely to be implemented again?
Class-based credit system?
Yes, sir. Yes.
I see this will be implemented.
Okay. But
And the academic bank of credit has already put in place.
okay, sir.
how it will pan out, there I have questions.
Yes,
Now,
there are certain
academic bank of
problems.
credit. I have a very something which I'm about. I'm very doubtful that
Yes, sir.
how this system of academic bank of credit, transfer of credit, is going to evolve in India. What will be the problems? When I look at that,
Mhm.
I find, I will give you an example.
Yes,
Say university, they have a paper of mathematics, say for BAD,
Mhm.
and the syllabus is on the higher side,
Mhm.
and the marking is set. Now there is a student who is not happy with this.
Yes, sir.
He finds difficult to complete the paper.
Mhm.
He finds another university where syllabus is less, and there are more options in the question paper.
Yes, sir.
He says that I am going to do that credit from that university. After attaining credit from that, he gets a transfer.
Yes, sir.
Now in academic bank of credit, this will be a credit which he has attained.
Yes.
As a will it be the same standard of degree? There are some institutions, some university which are maintaining a good standard.
Yes, sir.
Some university which are having a very poor standard.
Yes, exactly.
Give them another route for easy way to acquire the credits. But I think it is going to happen for one reason, that there is a digital university coming up, and in
Yes.
fact, distance learning in 16 universities, open state universities have come up, which are following the digital mode, and
Yes.
some students will acquire a degree through digital.
Okay.
What will be the standard of examination, how that happens, this only future will tell. But if we try to make a choice-based credit system within the offline mode, then we need much more resources. It could end up in resulting, at least initially, that there could be problems for maintenance of standard in quality. Some university may be hesitant that out of our 30 credits, you are coming with 4 credits or 6 or 8 credits from another university, which is very low grade, and you have actually not acquired the standard. Now you are transferring that to us, and after that you are saying that award me the degree. This could be a serious problem. But choice-based credit system, I think, will function
Will
because
function.
of the digital education mode being adopted by a number of universities, number of courses now being offered in digital mode. It could be, I have serious doubt. I have gone through some of the write-ups from that on some of the experts.
Yes.
They are
sir.
also expressing similar doubt. I once again say, I am in favor of that students should have some choice.
Yes.
If an institution is not in a position to offer, for example, at times there are some institutions which have something in place. Like in Punjab University, a college may not be affiliated for honors in a particular subject.
Yes.
Their students are allowed to attend another college, but they sit in the same examination.
Yes, sir.
Standard is the same.
Yes.
Now, if he goes to another university, there will be a problem. I have no hesitation in telling Himachal Pradesh University MCOM and MA degree at one time in semester system was having only 2 papers, while Punjab State had 4 papers. And Punjab State was not willing to treat it as equal. Then you have done half the course. How can we treat you as? So migration was not allowed. Because of that, there were problems. So it may not end up with that sort of situation. That is a question which I have in mind. I don't know how many people are participating right now because of interruption. Some people.
So there are about 94 participants showing in the meet.
I'm surprised that nobody has questions to ask.
Hello.
Hello.
Anu ma'am.
Yes. Anu.
Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, Anand this side. Actually, first of all, I would say thanks to you for this enlightenment session for me at least, because कि मुझे बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला इसमें. And I have a doubt. May I allowed to ask?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sir, my question is कि you have talked about certain platforms, IQACs and UGC and NAC, who is providing and help to provide accreditation to certain institutions at good
Yes.
level. But my thing is ki if I'm talking about an university who is having like ki more than 5, 6, 10, even number of courses running, and they have accreditation of NAC or UGC for only 1, 2, or 3 courses. I'm talking about certain private universities. And they are running certain courses for that they don't have these kind of accreditation. Even UGC, somehow UGC not have any provision for those things. So would you please put torch into it? Like if, for example, if I'm saying about fashion design, UGC
Yes.
don't even have exams for UGC net in this stream of fashion design. So how they are planning to produce academia in such kind of developing fields, developing educational fields in India?
Okay, firstly, let me ask your last part of the question. And I may have to ask you to repeat your first part because there was some interruption. As far as the net examination of fashion designing or some other subject is concerned, I've seen that number of institutions, universities, states, they confuse because they do not look at what are the regulations. When the first exam of net was held, there were number of subjects which were not, for which net was not conducted. Right from 19 September 1991 notification, there is a clause in the advertisement of net. You will find when the exam is being conducted, there will be end provision that this net will not apply to those subjects in which UGC is not conducting net examination. For example, in computer science, up to year 2000, 2002, UGC was not conducting net. The teacher were appointed. But at the same time, you are right, there a condition was being imposed that you have to qualify net. And in one local college, Sri Guru Singh College Sector 26, one teacher's services were terminated, that you have not qualified net within the given period. And then at that time, she contacted me and we started working on that. We fought a case. At that time, for computer science application, BTech was eligible. She was a BTech. When she applies for net examination, they say you are not a postgraduate. They reject her application. She is not able to appear. She has to do MTech. So in that case, when she was recruited, net condition was not applicable. She was harassed by the university for 6 years, and also with Chandigarh administration, which was providing grant for that. Finally, with all those inputs, we won the case. So for the subjects which are listed, for which CSIR and UGC are conducting net examination, for social science and other disciplines, UGC, for physical and life sciences, CSIR conducts the examination. If there is an innovative subject which is not in that list, the condition of net is not applicable. That is a reply to that. Just look at the notification, you will find that there are courses which are being run for which there is no such degree. This happened with biotechnology also. Bioinformatics. Let me give you an example of bioinformatics. Teachers approval extended, asked to go through for net. I happen to be in the syndicate of the university. I pointed out that bioinformatics is not part of life sciences. It does not become part of life sciences simply because its name is bioinformatics. Look at how much is the content of the bio in their syllabus. What are they doing? They need a preliminary education.
I request the participants to please wait for a few minutes. There's again some
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, sure, ma'am. Actually, I think there is some disturbance on her side.
Zoology or botany paper?
Sir, you are not audible. Sir, you are not audible.
Now,
Am
Yes.
I audible now?
Yes, yes, sir, now you're audible.
Okay, with interruption, it gets mute. Sometimes it gets muted.
Yes, yes, we understand, sir.
What was the other part of the question?
Sir, other part of the question is like कि क्या NAC वगैरह की अप्रूवल लाइक कि एक यूनिवर्सिटी है जिसमें कि सपोज किसी पर्टिकुलर कोर्स के लिए NAC ने अप्रूवल दिया हुआ है एंड फॉर अदर कोर्स दे डोंट हैव दैट अप्रूवल सो व्हाट अबाउट द क्वालिटी और ग्रेड ऑफ दैट कोर्सेज
इसमें आप मेरी एक बात ध्यान से सुनिए। नैक की जो एक्रेडिटेशन है वो यूनिवर्सिटी एज इंस्टीट्यूशन है, कोर्सेज की नहीं है। कोर्सेज की रिकॉग्निशन यूजीसी की है, फॉर विच दे हैव देयर गाइडलाइंस। बट एट द सेम टाइम आई हैव फाउंड यूजीसी have created certain degrees, BVOC, MVOC, etc. And surprisingly, their own degree are not on the list which they are recognized by UGC. They have introduced as that as an innovative program, as vocationalization program, but they have not done a corresponding change on the list of the degrees. For award of first degree, there are norms. It says that your nomenclature should be like this. For example, if you want to emphasize specialization, it can be put in bracket. But otherwise, degree has to be common. For example, they have a degree in Guru Nanak University, BCom professional. They objected to it. They say you cannot use the word BCom professional, which was earlier a recognized nomenclature by UGC. So they have to change it. So they put it BCom honors. Honors in this subject, honors in this. That got recognized. But I do see that in UGC, again, misses their point. It's one hand doing, the other hand doesn't know. You are introducing the new programs and you are not putting them in the list of the recognized courses. That could be the problem. Otherwise, NAC is for accreditation of an institution, not of a particular course.
Yeah.
That part is with UGC.
Yes.
But sir, my doubt is sometimes what I feel that ki UGC do not have any idea about these kind of innovative courses running into India because they don't have a kind of initiative which they should take for these things.
I agree with
Like
you.
if I'm talking about fashion design, if I'm talking about something which is related to artificial intelligence, which is a future of academia, and they don't even have taken initiative in either into UGC net or any kind of certain steps they need to take.
I agree with you that in the name of innovative courses, interdisciplinary courses, vocational education, number of courses have been introduced without monitoring that how the institution are going to function. I have seen number of courses which I find to be very deficient. In Punjab State, for example, there is a master degree in entrepreneurship and family business. The name sounds to be good, that somebody will be an entrepreneur after doing this. But if you compare their content and compare their rigor, when you compare with the Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India course curriculum, you will find that this course is not good enough. But it is a course which has been introduced. And all such courses, they run into trouble because university as well as UGC, those who are supposed to regulate, they do a bad job. And as a result, the entire thought of somebody starting their course, it results into nothing. I agree with you. There are serious deficiencies on that part also. That's the reality.
Okay, sir, one more doubt about it. Like, if I'm talking about, as I'm talking about fashion design as course, innovative courses, like, there are certain candidates, certain academia who wants to do PhD into it. Like, अभी बहुत से लोग PhD के लिए आ रहे हैं इसमें. So PhD, if they want to do PhD, they have to connect, they have to interlink their specific fashion design into either textile things or into something else, something like management and all. But there are not hardcore things into these kind of innovative fields for PhDs and all. So how one should do PhD and how one should select the topic for these things?
I understand your point. I see that there are certain subjects which are more practice oriented, which relevance is that whether you are able to create good fashion designer, and should there be a research in fashion designing itself? I have serious doubts that there is need for that. The same is I consider true for performing arts. And leave aside the discipline of music. You will be surprised to know that earlier UGC and our system was much more responsive. You must have heard the name of late Balwant Gargi, a famous drama writer, much decorated. He headed Punjab Department of Indian Theatre, and number of today's actors are his students. They have been good directors, which have been students of that institute. But he was not a PhD. He was not even a master degree holder. He was BA. And he was professor in theatre on the basis of performance. Earlier, UGC also recognized, University calendar of Punjab still recognizes that a professor can be appointed on the basis of his contribution in a particular field. And Punjabi University Patiala, they appointed Professor Gudyal Singh as professor. He was a school teacher. He is a Gyanpith Award winner. On the basis that he is such a known person of literature, he was appointed university professor. There are similarly such examples. And even in judiciary, you will find a person who's a jurist can be appointed as a judge in the Supreme Court. He doesn't have to go through the routine of having been in practice for a number of years and having been in actual practice, having been member of the bar. These are not a condition for appointing a judge of Supreme Court, but not for High Court. Because if he's a jurist, he should be at the top, not somewhere in between. So earlier system was providing situations that in particular discipline, you don't have to do this kind of research. I agree with you that in certain areas, PhD should not be made a condition for further career advancement, that you want to move from 7,000 to 8,000, then you have to do PhD. In Punjab State, we have a dental institute. They have similar problem. I have debated on that. I'm still active on that, trying to find a solution. But the fundamental point which you are raising, that in each subject, it is not the PhD which has to be. For example, if it is a PhD in fashion designing, who will be the first PhD? Who will supervise others? He has to be a supervisor. He should himself be a PhD holder. So from where the things will start? And what sort of PhD type research happened there? That is where I say that differentiation is required. And the authority which are regulatory body, they need to identify the needs of that. It should not become what happened to API, that one suit fits all. That situation is not right thing for higher education. Anybody else?
Any other participant? If you have any question, please come up with the question. Anybody? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. You have enlightened us with your different experiences in the field of education And you have also thrown light on the different types of problems we face in the education system. Sir has rightly pointed out that we need to educate more and more of our young people. We have to focus on development of knowledge, skills, communication, and technology. And we need to focus to education, need to lay focus on education to eliminate poverty from our country. We need to provide opportunities for specialization in different areas and address different needs of different people. We also need to be flexible in our approach to adjust to the changing demands of the society. And we need to improve in areas where we are lagging behind and enhance quality education so that we can progress in the field of education. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll now have tea break, a short tea break, and we'll come back at 11:50.
I think as part of this exercise, you need to have probably a photograph.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks for reminding, sir. Can we have everyone over here with the cameras on? Please, cameras on. Everyone. I request all the participants to put their cameras on mode so that we can have a photograph with sir. Everybody, please, cameras on. I request the participants, please. Let's get together for a photograph. I see a few number with their cameras on. Yes, Rekha ma'am, Maninda ma'am from the technical team. Can we have the photograph?
Thank you, everyone. The photograph has been done. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.